Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Shah Alam Roundtable. Thank you for joining us here this afternoon. Development in Shah Alam, okay? And what does the future hold for this vibrant city, okay? Shah Alam, as you know, is the capital of Selangor, and it was made city status, I think it was in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. Shah Alam actually is one of the fastest growing townships, so to speak. My first question, I'd like to direct it to Mr. Sam Tam. Compared to 10 years ago, property prices have gone up steadily in Shah Alam. Now, is there still room for the property market to grow and for prices to keep increasing?
I think we should always look at property in a long-term view. What we experience in Ken Holdings is the growth of demand for housing, especially in areas like this. And I think landed properties are very much in demand nowadays, in generally everywhere. Shah Alam offers the chance for people to actually own landed houses, and we actually see the profile of people coming into Shah Alam from PJ, from KL, everyone's moving outwards. I think there are certain portions of people who do come from Klang. So I think you see a convergence, the Klang side and the people coming out from the PJ side, and with that natural demand, and you see that these are actual homeowners. They live there, you know, they bring their families up there, and with that good demand there, over the years, yes, it will steadily increase, and I think transaction figures have actually shown that. You know, of course, I think one of the important things to also think about, I think in a radar perspective, is that although you know, property prices are going higher, as the state of Selangor, to actually promote investment, I think what the state should also be doing is to show a perception that they welcome foreign investment. Although the ownership of homes, I believe in Shah Alam, are majority Malaysians, you know, I think it's also good because you see we have places like iCity, you know, which is an international tourist hub, and we actually want to bring up activities around the area. You've got the Shah Alam big enclave at south side. You've got the Kemuning areas. It's good to be able to encourage, and I think with the recent policy of foreign buyers threshold at 2 million, it actually sends a very unfriendly signal for foreign investments, for foreign investors to actually come in. So I think from that from that point of view, the state should actually, you know, consider changing this perception that they may be giving to foreign investors now, and also on the allowance of non-strata landed properties as well. I think this is very important. But in the long run, we believe that, you know, property market will do well, because Malaysia is still young. We've still got a very young population, and we see that, you know, a lot of the buyers that are coming in are still the young ones. They get married, they want to bring up their own household and move into a home of their own. Of course, you know, assuming that, you know, they've got all the facilities and security they need for their homes.
Encik Salim, let me ask the next question to you, directly to you, okay? So the borders of Shah Alam has increased over the last few years, and new areas have made it into a city. It's become a full-fledged city now. It was once known as Bandar Bumiputra Enclave, okay, but it's become a thriving cosmopolitan city. Should Shah Alam undergo a rebranding exercise to increase its possibilities of becoming the next PJ?
Thanks, Brian, for the question. Let me start by giving a bit of history of how Sandra get involved into Shah Alam. So it goes all the way back in the early 90s when we started planning for Case Yuntong. It went to market in 1995, which is about the time where the expansion of the city was made. And basically we are there for about 20 years. Yeah. So what you can see, Shah Alam started as more of an administrative city. Something clearer to reality now is if you look at Putrajaya, by virtue of being administrative city, it is in fact Bumiputra dominant. But in the case of Shah Alam, what you can see is that now it's more of a mixed bag as against where it started. So I would say Shah Alam has moved and embraced on the One Malaysia concept. So it's not just a Bumiputra, but rather a mixed bag of other races as well. So if you look at on the aspect of the development, this is also, in a way, if you can see from the recent development that is in the market, cases in point like City of Amina, and even if you look at Shah Alam, for example, the profile of buyers are more mixed rather than dominantly being vertical. So I would say it doesn't need a rebranding. What it needs is to embrace on the evolution of the city, which Shah Alam has shown from where it started until now. And on the aspect of race as well, I suppose that will come naturally.
Based on personal feedback from my friends who own property in Shah Alam, who live in Shah Alam, they say the one thing that's lacking in Shah Alam is actually the livability factor, which is they tend to go to Klang or Subang or PJ if they want to get certain type of food or they want to experience nightlife or entertainment. Do you think that's justified, or do you think that's something that Shah Alam should look into for future?
Basically, livability defined, there's a lot of criteria. Different people will see it differently. So if you talk about having the best of both worlds, most probably there are some shortcomings in Shah Alam. But on the aspect of livability, when you start to value certain things like, for example, ample jogging track, bicycle, lakes, a lot of greeneries, those are things which are very much available in Shah Alam. Yeah? But when it comes to, like, for example, entertainment, there are certain limitations to the original Shah Alam. But those guidelines are in fact loosened in terms of the area which are the extension. Case in point, ICT, Bukit Jelutong, because these are in fact in the extension area of Shah Alam. Just to give you that idea, basically those that comes with you in front, these are the extended area.
Okay.
And those are not control you. So most probably it's about how you look at certain perspective of livability. And if you ask me, Shah Alam has a lot of positive which are not available in much of the other areas. And by virtue of that, Shah Alam has its own set of identity which is unique to Shah Alam, and most probably something that the resident is very proud about. Yeah?
Going forward, especially like ICT, there's a lot of entertainment there. Whereas in terms of city centre Shah Alam, the entertainment is more family type of entertainment and shopping. And we would like to create that more shopping happening kind of place there. So there are also certain locations somewhere in U8 where you can also have cinemas and what have you. So there is not, there are certain locations which might be having a certain rules and regulation. I think that is something that I cannot answer. That is the local council authority and what have you. But along the way, along the periphery, I think that has been opened up a bit. And if you want the type of nightlife that you want to have, especially in Sri Hatamas or in Bangsa, that might not be possible in Shah Alam. But if you are the type that wants entertainment in the context of Iberhad, or you want family type of entertainment where you can have lakes on your doorstep, you can have exercise through the lakes or beside the lakes, and those kind, and where the what you call that, the amenities are there, you know, green and what have you. So it's a slightly different, but I can't say about the future. But once you go more and more into high-rise development, definitely there will be where, you know, people want to shop there, people want to live there, people want to work there, and people want to play there. So probably there will be certain things that needs to be done. But I think Shah Alam as the state capital would have to have certain characteristic, and I think that might be applicable more towards the city centre, towards the old Shah Alam. But when it is Bukit Jelutong, Ken, Iberhad, I think there's a slight different thing that can be done there. But that's my point of view.
You know, many people say that the one thing lacking in Shah Alam is transportation. Transportation is an issue, and specifically, I mean public transportation. So I know there has been a proposal by the government for the LRT3 alignment ladies and gentlemen. And we have carried extensive stories about this proposed alignment. I think the LRT is something that is much needed in Shah Alam. Can you elaborate on this?
The coming on of LRT3, especially because there will be a few stations. One is in section 13 near the stadium. The other one in section 14. That will still need to be established. Where is the actual station is, but it's actually in section 14, Shah Alam, which is the city centre. One is in section 7 near ICT or in ICT, and Johanstier going forward from there. Our biggest area to be developed or further to be developed is section 14 PJ Shah Alam, which is the city centre. We are embarking on a revised master plan of the city centre. We want to create a metropolis in the city centre, and we want the LRT3 to be linked there. And we have not yet finalized the revised master plan, but definitely it will be a different type of development than what we have now. We would have service apartments, condominiums. We would have high-end and medium-end malls there to be created. And one of the ideas we are looking at is to interconnect between the LRT3 to the inner section 14 and to the tourist attraction that we see there's possibility of even the Blue Mosque as a tourist attraction, and also even our new HQ in section 14, which is an iconic building by itself, and also the Tasik, the lake garden that we have in Shah Alam. So we are now looking at whether we can introduce electric tram, to interconnect between the LRT3 to the rest of the attraction and development in Shah Alam City Centre. So we are still mooting what is the ultimate development going to do there, but definitely it will be high-end, high-rise, and definitely it will take cognizant of the availability now of LRT3, and we are in discussion with SPAT to ensure that the LRT3 station would be station where it is actually very much beneficial for our development there.
And we see the LRT as, I guess, is something beneficial that hopefully we can further enhance what's happening in ICT. But in terms of public transport, there are a couple of issues. We are beside the Freight Highway, so at this point in time, the benefit is not just the LRT, but also the proposed BRT.
Okay.
And we reckon that with an LRT to the north and a BRT to the south, we like to think that there will be transit traffic going from the BRT to LRT to boundaries, and the transit traffic will go through ICT. So we reckon that if that actually turns out, then I think the shops and the retail offices there will actually benefit from that development. Now, secondly, is that from the public transport perspective, today we are an cyber center, and one of the challenges we face actually in trying to market ICT to the call centers and the business outsourcing companies is that they always say they need a public transport.
Yep.
So we always face challenges on trying to convince these companies to move to ICT. With the LRT there, I think that removes the concerns that they have. So we see that as benefiting the people who have bought the offices for the MSC. The third thing, of course, is that I think we are more well paid for my tourism attraction than my development. And invariably, almost 90% of people will come by cars. I think there are coaches, but I think the coaches' volume is very small. And we hope that the LRT will provide alternative transportation, because one of the challenges we face at the moment is lack of car parking space. So the LRT, if you can ferry, more visitors to our theme park, I think we will benefit in that sense. I wanted to share with you all, because the chairman of SPAD, when he was in ICT to launch your Star Bus thing, yes, told the people there that the objective of the LRT was not just to provide ridership, but they also want to encourage development along the LRT. So they saw development as a byproduct of the whole LRT program, which I thought was a very create a very unusual way for a government body to actually look at it, But I think it looks very good, and it augurs well for the development potential of Shah Alam, especially along the LRT route.
Invariably, when a township undergoes rapid development, or even a city is in the case of Shah Alam, invariably there are housing projects that are delayed, or even commercial projects that are delayed or even abandoned. Okay, as developers in a thriving city like Shah Alam, would you view this as being a concern? Tuan Ji, your question.
For Shah Alam, for PKNS, in our 50 years history, we have not yet not been able to complete our development. We have always delivered. Slight delay, probably yes, but not delivering. In fact, our issue now is actually in regards to we have no more land banks in Shah Alam. So we are now embarking on urban redevelopment, especially in areas like Section 16, where the houses or the flats are 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom flats. And we find that even they are asking for a development. Basically, the quality of life there is suffering. So we are now analyzing that together with the state government on how best are we going to do urban redevelopment in those locality. We are cognizant also urban redevelopment have certain bad experience, especially like for example in PJ in Section 17, what have you. But our philosophy in regards to urban redevelopment is where the existing owners will not be pushed out. They might be compensated with, or they will be compensated with a similar or a better house for the one that they have relinquished. So that's our philosophy going forward. But that will entail a higher bit of cost. So therefore, we are looking at this very detailed aspect. But ultimately, we believe, most of these old flats will need to be redeveloped. That's ultimately our belief. And we also believe that most of the major factories and what have you, some actually have moved out to Pulau Indah and what have you. And that creates an ability or the possibility for this land to be redeveloped. So that's also a possible opportunity for developers to see that, PJ is very, very expensive. Minimum 700 to 800 ringgit per square foot kind of pricing. Shah Alam is still 400 to 550 kind of pricing, but land is scarce. So I think the only way we can do it is actually to redevelop these old areas into better housing for the people.
Dato' Yu, as one of the newer developers in Shah Alam, you mentioned that ICT is now more well known as a tourist destination rather than mixed commercial property destination. Do you think that's the way forward for new developers, to ensure that your MSC status, knowledge base, also known as a shopping center, do you think that's the way forward for new developers?
There are two angles to look at it. We were looking at some of the so-called abandoned projects, one time. And one of the things we noticed was that those who tend to be abandoned were standalone. So the high-rise standalone always had problems. And we reckon that probably that if they actually configure it so that it's not just a standalone development, but it's part and parcel of other activities and so on, then the potential for the high-rise to be successful will be greater. But then the second point of view is that when we started in Shah Alam, this was in 2002, 2003. The challenge was how do you create a different economic activity that can spur the development. Okay? And so we thought that, okay, maybe if I have the MSc, I can encourage the office people there, and if I can create a tourist destination, I can create a different economic activity. And that's how the MSc and the tourism thing came about. Okay? So we wanted to use this as a way to create I think to spur, I think the vitality of the place. Of course, with hindsight, you can say, oh, we are successful. But those days, if you look back 10 years ago, and we were trying to figure out whether that was the correct thing, it was something. There was a lot of debate on whether that was the correct move or not. Okay. So, of course, if you ask me now, what are you going to do for my next project? I would say, I'm going to look at creating an economic base, to support my development, because that would then ensure that I indirectly create a demand for my property development as I proceed.
Can I ask you, what do you think is the role of the local authorities, specifically for Shah Alam, in enabling transformation or enabling Shah Alam to move forward?
We have a plan prepared for about 43,000 acres of land as a single planning. And this is where I see local authorities' assistance is very important. And they understand what are the requirements of developers. They look at the guidelines available and suggest things that make it even easier. Yeah. So when you start to see things beyond those boundaries of your land, then you start to see a lot of positive things. And from our experience, Shah Alam embraced that very well. And in the 20 years that we have been in business in Shah Alam, we have got a lot of cooperation, not just from the local authorities, a lot of engagement with the residents and politicians as well. So these are things where we feel Shah Alam has a bright future. And of course, as you know, we are also very big in Shah Alam, and we intend to grow Shah Alam as it goes into the next step of city development. And you will see a lot of good identity that is coming up. Yeah?
Developers have a role to push boundaries, and the authorities have a role to regulate. But also, although I have brought up points for which, as developers, our Real Estate Housing Developers Association, we hope that the state authorities and also the local councils will look into. I must also, applaud the forwardness for which, in the past mayor we've worked with in terms of this approach. If not, we would not have been able to do things in our developments like removal of tarmac in the side lanes and the back lanes. Because the idea when we wanted to build Canberra was to build the first green township in the country, and it has to be fully integrated. So you look at current landed houses and the old ones which were built last time. The concept was a very nice town where you can actually go through anywhere. It's thoroughfare to every single different corner. A lot of accessibility. Today we're trying to narrow everything to one single entry and exit point for security reasons. Our our living situation has come to the point that we really put priority in terms of security and safety. So these are important things that we take into account. And if back lanes were the previous back lanes, from which I grew up 20, 30 years ago, they're old tarmac roads, smelly drains, curry poured down the back, and then kids trying to cycle behind that. I think no parent will allow their kids to now go in an open area for fear of kidnap and other type of crimes. So it's very important that we rethink how development should be. And by removing things like this, we actually create areas where people and families can walk and jog. That creates neighborhood security, creates neighborhood engagement with people. And I must say that and applaud the Shah Alam Council that they have actually agreed with this, although it is not easy. It took us a long road to actually be able to convince them that actually this is the way forward, especially in terms of developing green buildings and green townships nowadays.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this special roundtable on Shah Alam development. I think it's been an enlightening discussion. I personally have learned quite a lot from this discussion, and I think in some ways you gentlemen have put to rest some misconceptions people may have about Shah Alam.